The air is thick with tension as Malcolm Turner, now aware of the price on his head, prepares for the inevitable confrontation. In the dead of night, the assassin moves in, his silenced weapon ready, but Malcolm, armed with newfound knowledge and desperation, refuses to be an easy target. A gunshot shatters the silence, followed by another. In the chaos, betrayal unfolds, and Janelle Hayes watches her carefully constructed empire crumble in real time. But the real shock? The person who set her up was closer than she ever imagined. As the walls close in, one question lingers. Was she the hunter, or had she been the prey all along? Before we dive into this gripping thriller, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let us know where you're watching from. Janelle Hayes sat in the farthest booth of the dimly lit restaurant, her fingers tracing the rim of her untouched wine glass. The air smelled of grilled meat and expensive whiskey, but she had no appetite. Across from her, a man known only as the Fixer leaned back in his chair, watching her with an expression as unreadable as stone. Outside, the Chicago skyline stretched like a jagged crown against the night, the city humming with life, unaware of the deadly deal being made in its shadows. Sliding a folder across the table, Janelle kept her voice calm, steady. Inside, photos of Malcolm Turner stared back at her, some from court, others taken in his private moments, a man unaware he was being watched. The Fixer flipped through them with slow, deliberate movements, his eyes never leaving the pages. Janelle's heartbeat was steady, her decision unwavering. She had built her career on precision, on controlling every narrative. Tonight was no different. The Fixer tapped the stack of papers against the table, considering her offer. $500,000, a fortune for some, a necessary cost for Janelle. She had spent years climbing to the top, outmaneuvering men who doubted her, lawyers who thought she was just another face in the system. Malcolm Turner was the last obstacle. His victories had cost her too much. Her reputation, her clients, her future. She would not let him take anything more. Are you sure? The Fixer's voice was smooth, devoid of emotion. He had seen people hesitate at the last second, change their minds when the weight of their decision finally settled in their bones. He didn't care either way, only that he was paid for his work. Janelle exhaled, pushing her doubts aside. "Make it clean," she said, her fingers tightening around her wine glass. The Fixer nodded once and tucked the folder into his jacket. The deal was done. In 48 hours, Malcolm Turner would be dead. As he stood to leave, Janelle allowed herself a small sip of wine. It tasted bitter, metallic, the kind of taste that lingered on the tongue long after the glass was empty. The Fixer disappeared into the crowd, his presence dissolving like mist. Janelle remained seated, watching the city through the large window beside her. The weight of what she had done pressed against her chest, but she didn't flinch. This was how power worked. It was never given, it was taken. Malcolm had stolen from her once. She had learned her lesson. Across the street, a homeless man lit a cigarette beneath the flickering glow of a street lamp. The flame flared briefly before vanishing, swallowed by the night. Janelle watched the ember fade, then signaled for the check. By the time she left the restaurant, the cold night air slicing against her skin, she felt lighter. The wheels were in motion. There was no turning back now. She had spent years mastering the art of survival. Now she would master the art of revenge. The courtroom buzzed with quiet tension as the judge entered, her presence commanding silence. Rows of spectators filled the seats, some reporters, some curious onlookers, eager to witness the latest legal showdown between two of Chicago's most ruthless attorneys. At the center of it all stood Malcolm Turner, his posture straight, his gaze sharp as he addressed the jury with the confidence of a man who had never lost a case he truly cared about. Janelle Hayes sat across from him at the defense table, her expression unreadable, her fingers calmly flipping through her notes. She had fought Malcolm before, had seen his tactics, studied his methods. He was relentless, methodical, but she had spent her career proving she was just as formidable. He thought he had her cornered, but she was always one step ahead. The prosecution calls Detective Reuben Lawson to the stand, Malcolm announced, his deep voice cutting through the stillness. He strode toward the witness stand as the officer took his seat, adjusting his badge with a quick motion. The jury leaned in, ready to absorb every word. Janelle crossed her legs, watching the exchange with calculated interest. She already knew what was coming. The detective would confirm that the defendant, her client, had been seen near the crime scene, that his fingerprints were found on the weapon. The evidence was damning, but evidence could be bent, reshaped into something else. That was what she did best. Detective Lawson, Malcolm began, his tone friendly but firm. You testified that the weapon was found in the defendant's apartment. Was it in plain sight? No, the detective admitted. It was inside a locked drawer. Malcolm nodded as if this were a minor detail. And yet, you're confident he was the one who placed it there? The detective hesitated just slightly, the kind of pause a skilled attorney could exploit. Janelle smiled to herself. Malcolm was good. He knew how to plant doubt in the minds of the jury, how to turn certainty into mere speculation. But she had no intention of letting him control the story. When her turn came, she rose gracefully, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. She approached the witness stand with the poise of someone who knew the weight of every word spoken in this room. Detective Lawson, she began, her voice smooth as silk. You mentioned that the weapon was found in a locked drawer. Were any other fingerprints present? The detective shifted slightly. None that we could identify. So, let me clarify, Janelle continued, pacing slowly. A weapon is found in a drawer that could have been opened by anyone. My client's fingerprints are there, but no one else's. Are we to believe that he wiped every other print except his own? A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The jury was listening. Malcolm's jaw tightened slightly, just enough for Janelle to notice. She was getting to them. Objection, Malcolm interjected, his voice clipped. Speculative. Sustained, the judge ruled. But the damage had been done. Janelle sat back down, her expression calm. But inside, she felt the rush of victory. The trial continued, a battle of wits and words, both sides delivering blow after blow. Malcolm was fierce, striking at weaknesses with precision, but Janelle knew how to deflect, how to redirect the attack. They were evenly matched, two titans clashing in a war where the only rule was to win. As the court adjourned for the day, Malcolm approached her near the steps outside. The evening air was crisp, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple. You put on a good show in there, he admitted, his tone neutral, but his eyes filled with something else, something that almost resembled respect. Janelle tucked a stray curl behind her ear, her lips curving slightly. I don't put on shows, Malcolm. I win cases. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once before turning away, disappearing into the city crowd. She watched him go, her expression unreadable. He thought this was just another trial, another battle between them. He had no idea it was the beginning of his end. Janelle Hayes sat in her sleek corner office, the city skyline stretching beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The glow of the sunset cast long shadows across her polished desk, but she barely noticed. Her fingers drummed against the leather armrest of her chair, her mind replaying the day's courtroom battle. Malcolm had been sharp, but she had been sharper. She always was. Across from her, Renee Carter swirled the amber liquid in her glass before taking a slow sip. The two women had been friends since law school, their careers rising in parallel. But while Janelle thrived in the courtroom, Renee preferred the comfort of research, strategy, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering. You rattled him today, Renee said, a smirk playing at her lips. Turner wasn't expecting you to flip the narrative like that. Janelle exhaled, leaning back. He never does. He underestimates me every time. Renee studied her over the rim of her glass. And yet something tells me this isn't just another case for you. Janelle didn't respond right away. Instead, she walked over to the bar cart, pouring herself a drink. The ice clinked softly as she lifted the glass to her lips. It's not. Renee raised an eyebrow. Then what is it? Janelle turned, her expression unreadable. Payback, Renee sighed, setting her drink down. Janelle, I know Malcolm's been a thorn in your side, but you're playing with fire. Janelle's gaze was steady. I know exactly what I'm doing. Meanwhile, across the city, Malcolm Turner sat in his apartment, reviewing the files sprawled across his desk. The anonymous note he had received earlier sat beside them, the words repeating in his mind like a warning. "Watch your back. The enemy is closer than you think." He had shrugged it off at first, assuming it was from a disgruntled defendant or a desperate attempt at intimidation. But something about the phrasing unsettled him. It felt personal. His younger sister, Tasha Turner, a journalist with a knack for uncovering the truth, leaned against the doorway of his home office. "You look like you're trying to solve a murder instead of a case," she said, her voice light but laced with concern. Malcolm rubbed his temples. "Something feels off. I don't know if it's this case or something else, but my gut is telling me to pay attention." Tasha stepped forward, scanning the papers. "Have you pissed off anyone lately?" Malcolm snorted. "Every day." She smirked, but then grew serious. "Be careful, Malcolm. You might be the hunter in that courtroom, but outside of it, you're just as vulnerable as anyone else." Across the city, another player was moving in silence. Elijah Brooks, a private investigator with a reputation for digging up buried secrets, sat in his dimly lit office, analyzing a series of suspicious financial transactions. His client had hired him to look into a high-profile lawyer, Janelle Hayes. The deeper he dug, the more inconsistencies he found. Money moving through accounts that didn't belong to her, large sums withdrawn, with no clear destination. And then, something that made his pulse quicken. One transaction that connected directly to a name he knew all too well, Darius Mitchell. The moment Elijah saw it, he reached for his phone. His instincts told him this wasn't about business. This was something far more dangerous. Janelle's plan was in motion. Malcolm sensed danger, but couldn't see the threat, and someone else was already uncovering the truth. The pieces were moving, and soon someone was going to fall. The hum of the city was a constant backdrop as Darius Ghost Mitchell watched Malcolm Turner from a distance. He sat in a black sedan, parked half a block away, his trained eyes tracking Malcolm's every move. People walked past, oblivious to the man whose presence was as quiet as the shadows. Darius had done this countless times before, stalking, studying, waiting for the perfect moment. Malcolm emerged from the courthouse, his suit crisp, his stride confident. He was always surrounded by people, attorneys, journalists, admirers, and enemies alike. That was the challenge. A clean hit wasn't just about pulling the trigger. It was about timing, precision. Darius took a slow breath, his fingers tapping against the steering wheel. He had received his orders. The contract was clear. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. A mugging in a dark parking lot. A bullet to the head, quick and efficient. No witnesses, no trail. Inside a nearby cafe, Malcolm sat across from his sister, Tasha, who had insisted they meet. Her expression was serious, her fingers scrolling through something on her phone. "You need to see this," she said, pushing the device toward him. Malcolm glanced at the screen. It was a financial report, something about a series of payments connected to a known underworld fixer. He frowned. "Where did you get this?" Tasha crossed her arms. "A source." "Someone who thinks you're in danger." Malcolm leaned back, rubbing his chin. "People threaten me all the time. It comes with the job." Tasha's voice hardened. "This isn't a threat, Malcolm. This is a contract. Someone paid for a hit, and you're the target." The weight of her words settled in. Malcolm wasn't the kind of man who scared easily. But this was different. This wasn't a criminal lashing out in desperation. This was calculated. "Who?" he asked, his voice steady. Tasha hesitated. "The transactions link back to a private account. The money moved through several shells, but..." She took a breath. "I think it leads back to Janelle Hayes." For the first time in his career, Malcolm felt something close to disbelief. Janelle, the woman who had spent years battling him in court. The rival who matched him move for move. It didn't make sense. Legal wars were one thing, but murder. Meanwhile, Darius watched from his car, his phone buzzing. He answered with a low grunt. "Change of plans," the voice on the other end said. "Hold off." Darius frowned. "Why?" "The client is under scrutiny. We wait until the heat dies down." Darius exhaled, irritated but unsurprised. He had seen this before. People who thought they wanted someone dead until the reality of it weighed too heavily. But it didn't matter. He would wait. In the cafe, Malcolm's jaw tightened. "You're sure about this?" Tasha met his gaze. "I need more proof." "But Malcolm, if Janelle really put a hit on you, this isn't just a rivalry anymore. This is war." Outside, Darius watched Malcolm rise from his seat, tension in his movements. He didn't know what the prosecutor had just learned, but he could tell one thing. Malcolm Turner wasn't just a target anymore. He was hunting too. Janelle Hayes sat in her office, the city lights casting a glow over the glass walls. The air smelled of leather and expensive perfume, but she barely noticed. Her mind was elsewhere, racing through every possible scenario. The hit should have happened by now. Malcolm Turner should be dead, but instead, he was still walking, still breathing, still winning. Her phone buzzed on the desk. She snatched it up, expecting the fixer, expecting an update. But the name flashing on the screen made her pulse slow. Renee Carter. She hesitated before answering. "This isn't a good time. You need to listen." Renee's voice was tight, urgent. "Something's wrong." Janelle leaned back, pressing her fingers to her temple. "What now?" "Malcolm knows." The words sent a chill through her. "Knows what?" "He knows about the money. The transactions. Someone's been digging, and it's only a matter of time before he connects it to you." Janelle closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. "Who?" "I don't know," Renee admitted. "But I think it's his sister. Tasha's a journalist. If she finds proof." "She won't," Janelle interrupted. "Because there is no proof." Silence. Then, softer, Renee asked, "Did you really do it?" Janelle's grip on the phone tightened. "Renee, tell me the truth," Renee pressed. "Did you pay for a hit on Malcolm?" Janelle hesitated. Just for a second, but it was enough. Renee's voice turned cold. "I can't be part of this." "You're not," Janelle snapped. "You don't know anything." "But I do," Renee said, "and so does Malcolm." The call ended, leaving Janelle gripping the phone in silence. She let it drop onto the desk, staring at nothing. Renee had always been loyal, but even loyalty had limits. Across the city, Malcolm stood in a dimly lit parking garage, phone pressed to his ear. Did she admit it? Renee sighed. Not directly, but she didn't deny it either. Malcolm nodded to himself. He had spent years fighting criminals. But this was different. This wasn't some gang leader or corrupt politician. This was Janelle, a rival, a woman he had respected, a woman who had ordered his death. "You need to move fast," Renee warned. "If she knows you're onto her." "I know," Malcolm cut in. "I'll handle it." But he wasn't the only one making moves. At that very moment, Janelle dialed a number she never thought she'd have to call. When the fixer answered, his voice was calm, almost amused. "You're nervous." "I need this finished," she said, her voice steady. "Now." The fixer chuckled. "It's already in motion." Janelle ended the call, staring at her reflection in the dark window. Malcolm thought he had won. He had no idea the game wasn't over. Malcolm Turner tightened his coat as he stepped out of the courthouse, the autumn wind sharp against his skin. The city around him moved as it always did. Cars honking, pedestrians rushing, voices blending into an urban symphony. But tonight, something felt off. His instincts, honed from years of navigating danger, whispered a warning. He glanced over his shoulder. Nothing unusual, just a man in a hooded jacket leaning against a street lamp. A couple arguing near the curb. A cab idling with its headlights casting long shadows. Still, the unease sat heavy in his chest. Tasha's warning echoed in his mind. Someone had put a price on his head, and that someone was Janelle Hayes. Across the street, Darius Mitchell moved with practiced ease. His hand rested inside his jacket, fingers wrapped around cold steel. The plan was simple. Quick, a clean shot, no hesitation. The parking lot would be empty enough. The police would write it off as a robbery gone wrong. Malcolm reached for his phone, about to dial Tasha, when a movement caught his eye. Too fast, too deliberate. He didn't think. He reacted. Years of survival instincts took over. Darius pulled the gun. Malcolm dropped to the ground as the first shot rang out, shattering the glass of a parked car behind him. Screams erupted. Footsteps pounded against the pavement as people scattered. Malcolm rolled behind a concrete barrier, his heart hammering. Another shot. This one struck the ground inches from his foot. He forced himself to stay calm. Think. A parked SUV, 50 feet to his left. Cover. He bolted. Another shot tore through the air, but it missed. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the police. Darius cursed under his breath. Too many eyes now. The job was blown. He melted into the crowd, slipping into the darkness before anyone could get a good look at him. Malcolm reached safety behind the SUV, breathing hard. His hands were steady, but his mind raced. That wasn't a warning. That was a kill shot, and Janelle had ordered it. Across town, Janelle sat in her office sipping wine, waiting for the call that would tell her Malcolm Turner was dead. Instead, her phone buzzed with an unexpected name. "The Fixer," she answered, her voice smooth. "Is it done?" A pause. "Then, we have a problem." Janelle's grip on the glass tightened. Malcolm Turner was still alive. Janelle Hayes gripped the edge of her desk, her breath slow and controlled. But the tension in her jaw betrayed her. She had spent years mastering the art of appearing unshaken. But tonight, that composure was slipping. Malcolm Turner was still alive. The Fixer's voice was calm on the other end of the call. "Your man got sloppy. The job was supposed to be clean. Now it's a mess." Janelle exhaled sharply, pressing her fingers to her temple. "Where is he now?" "Gone. He knows someone tried to take him out. The police are crawling all over the scene." The Fixer paused. "You need to lay low." Janelle's mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be over. Malcolm should have been a headline by morning, another tragic story of city violence. Instead, he was still breathing, still moving, still a threat. Across town, Malcolm sat in his apartment, blood still on his sleeve from where he had scraped his arm to diving for cover. Tasha stood near the window, arms crossed, watching the streets below. "You need to tell someone." Malcolm shook his head. "Not yet. Malcolm, I need proof," he said, standing. "I can't just walk into a police station and say, 'Hey, my rival in court tried to have me killed.' I need something solid." Tasha narrowed her eyes. "And what if she tries again?" Malcolm looked at her, his expression unreadable. "She won't get another chance." Meanwhile, Janelle paced her office, her mind sorting through options. Then her door swung open. Renee Carter stood in the doorway, her face pale, eyes sharp. "We need to talk," Renee said, shutting the door behind her. Janelle exhaled. "Not now." "Yes, now," Renee snapped. "I know what you did, Janelle. And so does Malcolm." Janelle's pulse quickened. "You don't know anything." Renee shook her head. "Stop! I covered for you. I defended you. But this is too far." Janelle clenched her jaw. "I did what had to be done." "No," Renee said, stepping closer. "You did what you wanted to do, and now it's going to come back on you." For the first time, Janelle felt something cold creep into her chest. Fear. Renee stared at her. "You think Malcolm's just going to let this go?" She shook her head. "You don't know him like you think you do." The words echoed in Janelle's mind long after Renee left. She wasn't losing control of the situation. She had already lost it. The morning air was thick with tension as Janelle Hayes stepped into her black luxury car, her driver waiting silently behind the wheel. The city stretched out before her, the streets alive with movement, but she felt none of it. Last night's confrontation with Renee had left her restless. Every hour that passed felt like another second closer to something she couldn't control. She had spent years maneuvering around powerful men, outplaying them, outthinking them. But this was different. The feeling of being watched, of being hunted, it unsettled her. She checked her phone. No messages from the Fixer, no calls from Darius. That silence spoke louder than words. Across the city, Malcolm Turner stood in the police station, arms crossed as Detective Reuben Lawson flipped through a thick file. The photographs, the bank statements, the anonymous tip, all of it laid out like a puzzle finally coming together. Malcolm knew it wasn't enough to convict Janelle outright, but it was enough to bring her in. Enough to shatter the reputation she had built so carefully. "You're sure about this?" Lawson asked, glancing up. Malcolm met his gaze. "If she walks away from this, she'll try again." The detective nodded and reached for his radio. "Let's bring her in." Janelle's car pulled up outside her firm's downtown office, and she stepped out, head held high. She had convinced herself that she was still in control. But the moment she reached the building entrance, the flashing red and blue lights stole that illusion away. A wall of officers blocked her path, and at the center of them, Malcolm stood, his eyes unreadable. "Janelle Hayes," Lawson called out, stepping forward as uniformed officers moved into position. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder." Gasps erupted from the pedestrians gathered around, cameras flashing, news reporters already scrambling for statements. Janelle didn't flinch, didn't react. She had always known there were only two ways this could end: Malcolm dead or herself in handcuffs. She lifted her chin, keeping her voice steady. "This is a mistake." Malcolm stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "No, Janelle, the mistake was thinking you could get away with it." She met his gaze, searching for something: anger, satisfaction, regret. But she found nothing, just a cold finality. The cuffs clicked around her wrists, steel biting into her skin. As they led her to the squad car, she refused to look back, refused to acknowledge that, for the first time in her career, she had truly lost. Thank you for watching this gripping story of power, betrayal, and justice. What would you have done in Malcolm Turner's place? Leave your comments below and share your thoughts and reflections on this intense and emotional story. We want to hear your opinion. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so you won't miss our most exciting videos. Be sure to like the video and activate the notification bell so you never miss any of our updates.